Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode 442 for the week of February 25th, 2020. My name is Ryan Higgins, who's here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
And Kevin.
There you go. Look at that.
This is like an OG Comics Conspiracy podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, the OG is YouTube, but I mean, then there was the episodes with just Toby,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And just you three?
Yeah, and then there was Toby, and then there's a Charlie, and then Toby, and like they would swap for a while.
Yeah. Toby's still on his European vacation.
Oh, he's on Euro trip.
Charlie's working, but that's okay. Because I don't think Toby would add anything to this conversation. There's nothing against Toby. He's just not in, like, it's like the stuff that he thinks is boring. Because we're going to talk. There's really only one topic to talk about tonight. Everyone knows what we're going to talk about.
You're the villain, Hellrisen 3.
I'm now crowdfunding for a full case of that on eBay for 45,000 copies, or $45,000. Sorry,
but the shipping is too much.
If you want to help me buy a case of You're the Villain, just kick me $5, please.
What do you get for your $5? Is this like a Kickstarter?
It's 100. Oh, what do they get? The satisfaction of knowing that I own a sealed case of You're the Villain. It's the hot new book, man, that everyone's going to be wanting in 5 years.
Not even your name in the thank you section on the Comic Conspiracy website?
Maybe. We'll see. I'll send you a nice tweet.
Sweet. Okay, I'm in for $20.
I'll send you 4 tweets.
Yes.
We got one big topic tonight to talk about, of course, and that is the hullabaloo that happened this past weekend with Dan DiDio, co-publisher of DC Comics, was let go Friday morning. Now, for people that are like, I don't pay attention to comic news.
What?
I listen to this podcast. I'll a little breakdown. Kind of what happened. Well, that is the breakdown of what happened.
I mean, he's let go. Like
Friday morning, Dan DiDio, co-publisher of DC Comics,
was let go.
Co-publisher.
How long has Dan been with DC?
Early 2000s. I think it's 18 years. I believe 2002 maybe.
Yeah,
because he was an editor. He did some writing. He was prior to becoming co-publisher with Jim Lee. He was...
Which that happened with the New 52 shift.
Yes?
Yeah, because isn't that when Jim became kind of co-publisher?
Well, no, I think that actually... I think he was still executive, like, editor. Like, he's had a couple... There's a lot of these names that sort of are...
For Jim. This is for Jim.
No, for Dan. I don't remember what year he became co-publisher. I suppose I could look it up.
It's called the internet.
But
anyway, on with the story.
Yes. So co-publisher of DC Comics, along with Jim Lee, who is the chief creative officer as well. That was formerly Jeff Johns' position. So we're going to get into a lot of the kind of upper politics at DC here. This was quite a shock, as this was not like... Bob Iger stepping down today was a known... Yeah. I mean, we knew this was coming.
Yeah.
I think it's a little earlier than people expected.
Well, he has a contract through 2021.
Right. So total side note here. Bob Iger, when Bob Iger stepped down, it's Bob... I'm blanking on his last name. The guy that took over. He's one of the other head Disney guys. This was a known thing. Everyone knew Bob Iger was going to step down. He's working he's still on the board and going to be helping with, I forget what the wording is. He's still going to be working with Disney, just not as CEO of the company. So that was a planned thing with press releases that all came out at the same time. The transition happened immediately. This was a known thing.
And actually, coincidentally, I just finished reading his book recently, Iger's book, and there's a section in there about how his whole plan was to leave, I think it was 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
But then the merger came with Fox, and so he renewed his contract to stick around through that. So,
and it's done. I mean, that's done. Disney Plus is done. Galaxy's Edge is launched.
So, of course,
those were his goals.
It begs the question: why leave now when you have a contract
Well, the whole idea was
why step down?
He had these goals, and they're all done. Disney Plus is launched.
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge is done. Fox merger is over. He's done. It's like out on top.
if the Fox merger had not happened, according to
he would have stepped down at that point.
He was looking at a presidential run.
No. Like
as
national,
yes,
politics. Yeah.
Whatever, Bloomberg, get out of here.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm just saying you would.
He's a nice enough guy, but I don't need that.
Well, I'm not saying you would have voted for him. I'm saying that's how the world would look different if they hadn't bought Fox.
Right.
Jim Lee and Dan DiDio became co-publishers in February of 2010.
Okay, so
they replaced Paul Levitz.
Right, because Paul Levitz stepped down. But and I guess, he was publisher. Yeah. So, because they both came in at that point.
Yeah.
And that's when the seed for New 52.
New 52 came out in 2011.
Yep. So, back away from Bob Iger, that's a different conversation. But that is what happens when...
a different company.
But that is what happens when a planned transition takes place.
Yep.
That was not the case with Dan DiDio.
No.
As it just suddenly random websites, Bleeding Cool, I think, maybe posted the first article, but it very quickly went up on a lot of sites that they had reached out to Dan, out to DC, and like the sole comment was, I'm paraphrasing here, like Dan DiDio is no longer employed by DC Comics. Period. There was no press release. There was no announcement.
They fired him on a Friday morning, like they're supposed to.
Well, if if this was a planned transition where he was stepping down to do whatever, and they have someone else right in line, and yada yada. So, I talked to some people. I don't know, like. I wasn't in the room where it happened.
You know some people.
I know a couple people. Not in the room where it happened, so no one has any idea exactly what's going on. But there's some good guesses out there. Heidi McDonald for the Comics Beat wrote a really good piece that for the most part matches the stuff that I have heard. Her
piece was really good at like kind of establishing a good like timeline for Dan DiDio and letting like you read it and you get a lot more information on like just what he did, some of the problems, all of that stuff. So definitely something to check out. So we'll talk more kind of general about Dan and DC and what we think's going on in a little bit here, but up front I wanted to have a few things clear. At no point have I heard any Me Too stuff. Some people don't like him because of Eddie Berganza working under him, but that's a separate conversation. There was a fair amount of people that worked under him that we've had that have had issues in that area.
But they no longer work there.
But they no longer work there. Right? Yes. No, but they no longer work there. Yeah, but he did have a fair amount.
Like one or two. So there's nothing like that. Don't rule out, AT&T took a hatchet to Warner Brothers. They let go a lot of people. We already saw DC Films was basically shuttered. Jeff Johns was let go. He runs his own production company now within Warner Brothers, right? Working with Warner Brothers, but he's no longer a Warner Brothers employee. A lot of the people up top were moved around. They brought in new people. So, you could easily theorize that maybe this is like one. Maybe at some point they were like, well, we want to start replacing more senior members at other divisions of the company. I think if they had someone in mind, they would have just stepped in. I wouldn't rule it out. It doesn't seem to be the case, but again, don't rule out just boring corporate, changes. What does seem to be the case, and this, if we go back to New 52, and if anyone's met Dan or been at a panel or seen him talk, he is enthusiastic. He's excited. But that can be sometimes it's a little. He can come off a little like the dog in Up, sort of like squirrel, very like distracted almost, right? He has a lot of ideas. I think he has a lot of thoughts. He has a lot of things he wants to get done. He has a lot of good ideas, some bad ideas, but a lot of good ideas. I like most of Dan's. In theory, a lot of the stuff was good. And again, we'll talk more specifics about his legacy here in a little bit. But he was clearly a powerful, upfront, direct, excited person, which I could see being difficult to work with. If you saw on Twitter, you saw lots of people on social media, a lot of the creators had a nice outpouring of support for Dan. I did not see that from any of the editors I follow at DC. Now, they may just, hey, I mean, the creators are freelancers. Yeah. The editors are employees. Maybe they are not allowed to say anything. Yeah. I don't know. But there have been a number of editors that have left in recent years, very recently, actually, in the last year or two, that worked under Dan. Most of them at lower levels, but some higher level people too. Dan is not editor-in-chief of DC Comics. That is Bob Harris.
Yeah.
He's co-publisher. But he really is the face of DC. If you go over to Marvel, the face has always been the editor-in-chief. Right now, C.B. Cebulski. He's the face of Marvel Comics. And Tom Brevoort, who is one of the other kind of senior editors. Dan Buckley, the president, or the publisher of Marvel, you never see him. I mean, he does interviews, but, like, he's not on panels. He's not out doing that stuff. But that's Dan, right? So it's easy enough to assume that he could be a difficult person to work for in a managerial position. And, if you get a lot of people quitting under you and their exit interview is, I'm leaving because of a hostile work environment and I don't feel like the management's taking me seriously, or they're going over my head, or it's very disorganized. One or two people, okay, but 6, 7, 10 over years, no, that's a pattern, all right? So,
well, with New 52, after it became publisher, remember we had that huge, like, creative teams were pitted against each other,
right?
And there were creators that couldn't stand editorial, there was this huge.
Let's go back to New 52. Let's kind of take a look at the timeline here, because I think you can kind of see a bit of a pattern here, right? DC, Dan was involved with DC during Identity Crisis. That comes from him. Infinite Crisis. That was before he was publisher, but those were under his sort of, he was like, again, I don't have a list of his exact positions at the time. 2004, 2005, 2006, he was like senior editor, but he wasn't EIC. He wasn't publisher. But that was, pre-New 52, I feel like the line was in pretty good shape. Paul Levitz ran a very tight ship. Everyone had nothing but respect for Paul Levitz. But he was there for a very long time, so him stepping down, it really does make sense.
He was a vice president of editorial when he joined in 2002.
Okay. Yeah, because he was editing. He wrote like Superboy. He's always done some writing as well.
And then in 2004, he was promoted to vice president, executive editor.
Okay, so executive editor, I believe, is basically editor in chief, because I don't think they had an editor in chief position while he was there.
Yeah,
like in name. I think that was the executive editor or the editor in chief position.
And then after that is when he moved up to co-publisher.
Right. So when you're editor in chief, it makes sense to direct the line. When you're co-publisher, maybe less so. So again, if I've met Dan a number of times. I've talked with him. I think he's a really nice guy. He loves comic books. Very excited. But work environment is very different than public environment, right?
I've had my ups and downs with liking Dan and hating Dan over the years, just with, certain things that he's...
You can dislike people's, the things that they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you can... And that's the difference between, work and a work relationship and a fan relationship, or a friend relationship. I have plenty of friends that I would probably never want to work with. I like them as friends, but I'd probably kill them if they worked here at the shop. I wouldn't hire them.
How the hell have we gotten along for so long?
You're fine. So if you go back to New 52, right, what Brock said, if you remember, there was a very large, creators didn't know that they were being pitted against each other. And sort of multiple creative teams coming up with projects at the same time. You had things that were approved, if you remember J.H. Williams on Batwoman, he was going to marry Kate Kane and... Yeah. Was it Raina Montoya? Who?
No, it was Kate Kane and...
Who was she going to marry?
The DOE chick. I can't remember. Chase. No.
Was it? No.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't
it wasn't. It wasn't Renee. It was the D.
It was a girl. It was a girlfriend. I can't remember who it was supposed to be. But that got nixed. J.H. Williams left. You've had famously, like, Mark Waid said, like, I will never work at DC while Dan DiDio's there. Mark Waid's also,
Yeah. Well, there was also the huge Gail Simone thing that happened with Batgirl.
Well, she had her run, but then she left. They wanted to change direction on that. So there's a lot of... You had a good launch, but then some of the books were like, well, really? And then the second launch was worse. The third launch was worse.
Well, it's like... New 52 gave us a lot of really... gave us some really cool stuff. And it gave some creators kind of this bubble that they could work in. Like, if you remember, Scott Snyder was on Batman, and then the Batman universe kind of started to tighten up and become its own little, like, group in editorial.
Well, and I think those books are... If you're Jeff Johns, Dan DiDio's not going to tell you what to do. If you're Snyder, you have... Who is his editor? Because Brian Cunningham is his editor, is Snyder,
Brian's on the Superman.
He was John's editor in Superman books. So he's dealing with Bendis. Who was doing Batman? I don't remember who the editor was. But I'm assuming a few of the creators were sort of protected from the changes of the general New 52 stuff.
Yeah.
And they were free to do what they wanted to do. Clearly, most of the line was not. That was just not the way it was going to be. So we go to DCYOU, when the New 52 started to really kind of falter. That was an attempt to sort of try a bunch of new stuff. And at the same time, if you, again, remember when DC...
Mark Doyle?
Was it Mark Doyle was his editor? That makes sense. And I think he's gone now, right?
Well, Mark Doyle moved over to Vertigo.
Right, but I think he left. I don't think Mark Doyle's a DC.
And we had a lot of homework to do for this.
Well, I get real bad when I get to like the bottom level.
I know when they did the Vertigo relaunch, was it 2 years ago? Yeah. Mark Doyle was in charge of Vertigo as of 2018.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a balloon.
Oh, yeah, no. They moved to... No, he was still the Batman editor, and he left during King's Run. That's right.
Because of the Catwoman proposal.
Yeah, he left during King's Run. So that's another person that left under Dan's watch, who had been with them for a long time. I think DCU would have been fine.
Oh, he went to run Young Animal.
After he came back?
No.
Or he just left Batman?
When he left Batman, because that was 2017, he left Batman and went to go to Young Animal and the remnants of Vertigo.
Okay. Well, with DCU... that would have been fine. They were interesting books. They didn't all click. But the problem was you also had the basically complete relaunch of all the main DC characters. Again, Superman lost his powers. That was a Johns JR run. Wonder Woman got like some weird new origin and costume. All the stuff with Donna Troy. That they changed up a lot of the characters.
That was the Meredith Finch stuff with David starting on the art and then getting another artist.
Batman, Gordon became Batman. Green Lantern lost his powers. So all of this stuff hit at the same time, and that was the end of New 52. DC tanked in sales, just across the board. Now you have to remember, over at Marvel, they're doing the same thing, right? Marvel's got all different Marvel, and they're like on their fourth relaunch in 5 years, and Marvel's fucking plummeting at the same point. So. 2015.
We still got things like Grayson, Omega Men, Tom King kind of came out of DCU.
There are fantastic books during all these points, but from a macro sense, you have like the huge success of New 52, but then a softening pretty quickly and a real drastic drop in sales. So who steps in but newly appointed chief creative officer of Warner Brothers? And that is, and that is Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
And this is Rebirth. So this was the Rebirth relaunch in 2016. Now, again, to what specific nature he forced DC to do this, it seems likely that just based on what the CCO does, he's responsible for sort of the look and the feel of a line of any product. I mean, CCOs at Apple and
because at the time Johns was over DiDio and Lee
he was in Warner Brothers, right? He was overseeing these characters across
multiple mediums,
everything, right? That's Jim Lee's position now. So Rebirth,
who's going to be publisher? We'll get to that later, but keep going.
Rebirth may have been pretty against what Didio wanted. I don't know, but we had great success with Rebirth.
Yeah, so great success with Rebirth because we started to go back towards Aquaman and Mera being together. Like there was a lot of a shift to kind of taking things from New 52 that worked and running with them still, and things that didn't necessarily work and kind of just redoing them, like one of the funniest things that I remember during, like from 2011 till now is the whole Convergence story arc. That was basically just they did it because they needed to move.
Right.
And so it was kind of just thrown out there.
Yep.
And it was a garbage thing. Nobody cared. Like it bombed drastically, but somehow we got the current Superman out of that Convergence.
Right. It was very weird.
It was weird, but it's like Johns took that whole kind of mess of an event and got us the Lois and the Clark and
but
what we have now
was like a Band-Aid because they were moving.
Yeah,
that's when they moved to the West Coast. Right. So Johns was let go or steps down. Not exactly clear. June of 2018. That's when Diane Nelson left DC Entertainment as well. So all this sort of collapses at the same point. A lot of this, that's right. That was right when AT&T, but then that was right after AT&T bought them, right? So this is around the time. I mean, we already have Doomsday Clock had already been announced and is starting to roll out. And what happens? Johns is no longer in the position he was. He's now a freelancer, basically. His plans for Doomsday Clock clearly now off the rails. There's all sorts of other behind the scenes stuff that I'm sure, Kevin. I know you said you want to be the fly on the wall. Is what the hell happened with Doomsday Clock?
That would be my pick above the Didio firing.
Yeah.
Because that's more of a personnel matter.
Yeah.
The Doomsday Clock would be my pick.
What exactly happened? But I think it's connected.
I think it's connected, but whereas the Didio is a personnel matter,
right?
The Doomsday Clock has a lot of different creative aspects to it. So I just think it would be a juicier story to explore.
I mean, I think Johns was like, I'm going to redo all of this and put us back on the proper path, according to him, and undo everything. And then he was let go, and Didio well, again, I don't want to say Didio, but plans changed. So this leads us to 5G. This has been rumored for a little while. And again, from people in the know, I've heard like the extremes on this, that nothing's changing, everything's changing. And I think it's easy to assume that sort of confusion also was internal.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because because we've been hearing about 5G for what, a year now?
No. Well, I mean, there was talk of
that preview board.
Yeah.
Was New York last year.
November?
October.
So
the thing you wouldn't let Toby talk about.
Yeah. Fucking Jesus. So 5 months. Yeah. And I think there was maybe some hints earlier that they wanted to redo the timeline a little bit. But yeah, DC does this, and Marvel does it too. Every decade, Marvel updates what war Tony Stark was in. I mean, they have to, or they have to. So again, I don't know anything about 5G. I don't know anything about the plans.
But I will tell you this: I was excited about 5G after reading Doomsday Clock 12 because it looks somewhat interesting out of that. But
a 5G is this way. Doomsday Clock is this way.
I know.
I think they were going in. I
think that describes what we're dealing with 5G is what Johns kind of gave us with
John's
the future of 5G.
After 5G, I'll fix it again.
Yeah.
So if you're a DC and you've had 10 years of some confusion, some micromanaging, some editorial kind of overstepping their bounds a little bit, creative feeling frustrated. Scott Snyder on Twitter, he said, I love Dan DiDio. He goes, we've had some drag out screaming matches at each other, but at the end of the day, I really like and respect him. I'm very paraphrasing here, so don't quote me on this. But he had very nice things to say about him, and and I think that's going to be the case with anything. So it is again very easy to put two and two together. That you have editors leaving, you have he got a big pass for New 52. But what have you done for me lately? Especially Rebirth success, if that's all at John's hands. And now we're heading into 5G. And if there's blowback from not only fandom, right, who's unsure of what's going on, they're just going after rumors. If creative and editorial isn't happy, then there's just a lack of what was dark metal supposed to be called? But death metal,
what was death metal supposed to be called?
It's always
there was something else. It was supposed to be called.
In Heidi's article,
it
was called Dark Crisis.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which that's. I don't think Snyder wants to do a crisis. I think he wants to do his own thing, just like he did in Batman. I don't see him. He's not Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is like, I can write the book that will connect everything. That's not Snyder. No. That's not an insult. They're just very different people.
Snyder can give you a huge story with a lot of just depth and just go crazy with it.
But they're just different style. They could write big events, but they come at them very differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're both really good, just in their own way. I don't think Snyder wants to get his hands dirty with a complete Crisis on Infinite Earths level event. That's a massive undertaking. So here we are. What I can tell you is there has been no public official press release or anything from DC. However, there's a DC retailer forum that I'm very active on, and they have said I'm not directly quoting anyone from DC, and I'm very much paraphrasing here from a few of the employees that work there that have posted that said you're allowed to tell your customers and you're allowed to tell people if they're asking that business as usual at DC. And again, this is me editorializing here. There was a massive change in leadership. Clearly, there will be some changes, but now I'm back to what DC said. Everything is going as planned. There is no change to their publishing.
This isn't going to necessarily disrupt any publishing of stuff or.
Now, we'll talk about 5G in a second. Their work with creators remains the same. There's no one coming in from AT&T that's telling them to change everything and fire everyone. It's business as usual. This also means DC Comics is not shutting down. DC Comics is not going out of business. AT&T is not stopping the publication of the comics line. And AT&T is not selling DC to Marvel. AT&T is also not licensing.
Where are you hearing all this garbage?
Licensing their comics to Marvel or IDW or any other company. These are all variations of rumors that have been spread over the weekend by, let's call them bad actors, in the political sense.
God, you're so nice.
On various sites like YouTube and social media. Again, we can talk all about this in a minute. So that's the story. As far as the little bit that I've heard.
So you're telling me Dan DiDio was fired?
Dan DiDio was fired. And what Heidi said, and in her article, in her public article, plus connecting some dots, looking at the timeline of events and saying, here, this makes the most sense.
Yeah, out of everything, Heidi's article, I think, really did a great job of giving the calm head kind of, this is the information, these are the facts, this is what we know. You can connect dots, and the dots pretty much explain themselves. Everyone else talking like DC's going under, the ship is it's sinking up. Like,
no, it's absolute nonsense.
Dan DiDio was not a cornerstone of DC. Like, if you remove him, DC dies.
Well, when you look at, there are still retailers that are like, this wouldn't have happened under Paul Levitt's run. I'm like, dude, like, Paul Levitz was good. Don't get me wrong. But he's not perfect. There's good and bad under everyone. Mm-hmm. That was a fucking decade ago. Yeah. Like, move on.
Wasn't that more like 20 years?
Well, he left
I see
10 years ago. He's been gone for 10 years. Like, fucking move on.
Yeah.
All right?
I met Levitz. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a nice, quiet guy. Yeah. Like, I
ran into him in a comic. You were with me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul has forgotten more about the comics world than the three of us combined with eternity to study would ever know.
Yeah, no, he's one of the
and there's
among the most. But I mean, if you living comics people, he is.
But if you look at what Paul brought us, Paul brought us Jeff Johns. Grant Morrison. A lot of Grant Morrison stuff was under him. There was some, really great stuff.
80s, 90s, and 2000s. I mean, that's Levitz in various forms. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's going back to the 70s and for him writing for DC. Yeah. But yeah, he was he was there for 40 years in various forms.
I'll always have a soft spot for Paul, not only for his work, but because he published one of my ideas. Not a comic I created. I mean, an idea. They published in, I want to say it was the late 90s, maybe. Mm-hmm. They published an annual of the Jack Kirby Green Arrow comics from the 50s that had just been sitting around and never been reprinted.
Yeah.
And I asked Paul, like, why don't you put those out? And he says, well, there's not enough material for an archive, or this is back in the archive days.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how about this? There's X number of comics. Could you do like a square bound, like a $5? I don't even know what the price was. $5.
Oh yeah. I've seen that. Yeah, I know that issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what. And he goes, that's the perfect idea. We're going to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get any royalties from it.
Probably have it.
Yeah.
Cool.
But the Green Arrow,
it's a Jack Kirby. It just says
it's like a white cover with him like on the
front. Yeah. That's it.
Yep.
Anyway, that's a complete tangent.
Yeah.
So I have a question. I previewed one question I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to hit you with another one.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Did I say anything else? 5G. We don't. Let me do the 5G thing real quick.
Oh, I was going to insert in between what you already said in 5G.
Okay. Go for it then.
Okay. So set 5G aside because it's all right now speculation and rumor.
Yep.
So forget that. So this is a little bit of a difficult conversation in certain ways because you've obviously interacted with Dan on the retailer forum, etc. I've interacted with Dan many times as well. Mm-hmm. His wife, Leilani, is a delightful person. Dan is a super nice, enthusiastic guy, as you've said.
Yep.
So I don't want to sit around and like do a Liefeld and like talk about somebody's firing. Yeah. I know that's the topic, but I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, good riddance or Dan did this wrong or that wrong.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask it to you this way as a retailer. When you look back at Dan's tenure, what are your thoughts as a retailer on that time from DC?
I will tell you. I will tell you at least part of it. I will tell you part of the message I sent him, which he had a very nice reply to, and that was, and I've told him this. I've told this in person too. This was during maybe like the second or third retailer meeting. New 52 was a large portion of me being able to buy a house. Right, me and my wife. We
that and split. Walking Dead #1.
The Walking Dead. I sold my run of Walking Dead. That was a nice part of my down payment. But the profits from New 52, our store sales skyrocketed in those early days.
New 52, despite what anybody says, brought people back to comic book stores.
Shitload of people.
You want to talk, like people always say, do movies do it? No, New 52 in the past 10 years is the only thing that drove really people back to the stores in that amount.
I'll disagree with that, but it is.
What was the other one in 10 years?
Everything. I mean, the movies are a big part of that too.
But Dan's tenure.
But yeah. So, and I told him, New 52 was my down payment on a house. Like, that was a major factor in me having the finances available because of the success of that, because of the store. I was able to get a house. I mean, we were very lucky when we got it. The price had dropped, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of other factors, but I was able to buy a house in part because of this. That is, I can never forget that, because the success of the new 52 line was humongous for the store. I don't know. It's hard because what exactly did he do? Right. That's the tough part. So
I'm not, without even saying his fingerprints were or weren't on this or that.
Yeah, you can blame him for every bad thing and say, well, the good stuff wasn't him.
But the stuff that happened on his watch during these 10 years, when you look back on it now, the new 52 bought you a house. What about the rest?
I mean, I think some of my favorite comics of all time have been published under his tenure. Look at Mr. Miracle, right? Look at. I mean, the books we were just talking about over end of year podcast. Mark Russell.
Most of us leaned heavy towards later, mid to late part of the decade.
Yeah. Mark Russell said on Twitter Flintstones is because of Dan, right? Like I owe it. Like he fought for this, right? Like. That's an incredible book, right? Bringing over guys like Tom King. Doomsday Clock, whether Johns worked with him or not, Dan could have said no, right? And he didn't, right? So Doomsday Clock doesn't happen if Dan says no.
But we also got Before Watchmen.
Before Watchmen was great.
Some of it.
All of Before Watchmen. What year was that? That was like 2012 maybe?
I thought that was the previous decade.
Was it earlier than that? Like 2009? It feels later than that for some reason. Black Label. Look at the Black Label books right now. Those are fantastic.
Yeah, right? but it was the fiasco of the bat penis.
I made a lot of money on that.
Still making money on that.
I'm a big fan of all the Justice League Dark stuff, whether it's Justice League Dark, Swamp Thing, Animal Man, Vampire, all that run in Demon Knights.
We got Demon Knights. We got a lot of
that stuff
great
in
stuff.
New 52 were some of my favorites.
2012.
Oh yeah, it was for Before Watchmen. Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
Did you not put it on your best of the decade, which the regular feed will be hearing tonight?
Yes. I don't know that I put it best by decade, but I thought Before Watchmen was good. So yeah, I mean that's my. He's done a lot of good stuff. Clearly, there's bad stuff, but yeah.
But on balance, you as a retailer,
DC has been our best partner at the store. Yeah. It has always made me more money than Marvel. We have always sold more than Marvel. Or more DC than Marvel. There have been times where it's close. It is closer now than it has been. There are times where DC was just fucking crushing Marvel 2-1. We were a little bit of an outlier at the store here. Our customer base is very DC heavy. That's not super common.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. There you go. So, yeah. I got nothing else.
So 5G.
That was my question.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So 5G.
Yeah. So 5G. We don't know, right? I would think if the blowback's that strong and the creators didn't want to do it and the editors didn't want to do it, well, if Dan's gone, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, we already have the Free Comic Book Day book. They are in. Yeah. That's done, right? I was on FOC. It doesn't ship till mid-April, but they do not have a lot of time if they're making changes in that. Now, they pulled the Wonder Woman story out
of the Free
Comic Book Day, right? And they announced that before he was fired, but I kind of wonder maybe someone had an idea. They're putting in a preview stuff for Death Metal, which I think is a very smart move. Very smart move. Now with 5G, do we know? I mean, we don't know anything. They have the Generation 0, which is a Free Comic Day book. Generation 1 has been solicited. It's in the previews that comes out tomorrow. That is supposed to go to Generation 5. That's what? May, June, July, August, September. So October would be 5G, right? May is Generation 0 and 1. right? So
this is the history thing.
May,
right?
June, July, August, September.
These are the history things, right?
Yeah,
these one shots that kind of sum up. It's what Marvel did.
It's the new timeline.
It's the history of the Marvel universe, that mini. Okay.
Now, 2, 3, 4, and 5 can probably be drastically altered at this point. It's very easy for them to make this just a fun history of the DC universe, and Volume 5 is full of Generation 5 is full of Batman Beyond and Commandy and the Legion of Superheroes, and then that is it, and it is over. And then
we already got that with the Legion Superheroes Millennium.
And they'll do it again to have that 5th issue out, and then
they'll just reprint that Legion Millennium as one book.
The next issue of Batman will be 100% normal Batman, and nothing will change, and every plan has been abandoned. That's I think a distinct possibility. Now, maybe not. I mean, maybe there was some compromise, and they're like, and again, this has been my feeling from the very beginning. If you want to replace the characters, that's awesome. Do it for 6 months. Mm-hmm. Cross over the entire DC universe. Every character gets killed off in their last issue. The next issue, that's the September issue. Batman dies, Superman dies, Wonder Woman dies, Flash dies, Hal Jordan dies. Every character is killed off, right? Whatever the MacGuffin is, right? You then have 6 months of the replacement heroes coming in. And you have a core event book that follows it. That goes through 6 months. Think like Azrael. Think Superman Red, Superman Blue. Think Donna Troy taking not Donna Troy. Was it 50? Hippolyta taking over as Wonder Woman.
We had 52, which we had a lot of the. Was it 52 or right before 50? Or 52 is when a lot of the main book characters disappeared.
Well, yeah, but they there was no break. They did 1 year later, and they were all back. So there was no publication break. So if they want to do this, they have a main book that's solving the mystery. So October, November, December, January, February, March, they solve the case. April, all the heroes return. No renumbering, please. No new number ones. Just keep the numbering. That sounds fucking great. That's a cool, fun crossover. You can experiment with some new characters. We can have a legacy
crisis.
Sure, whatever you want to call it. I think that sounds exciting. DC has not done a crossover across their entire line in years. Mm-hmm. So I'm done. If that's 5G, I'm in. I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
But do you think it'll ostracize people?
No. 5G, again, like we said on the other podcast, being a complete permanent replacement of these characters, quote, the world's giantest air quotes, forever, that is a non-starter. That is...
I still don't understand, and I think we're retreading some ground here, because I can't remember... You have a multiverse.
Right. Why?
Just call it Earth 5 and have this is the Earth where that happened.
Ultimate Universe, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And you're good to go. You want to have a crossover, have our Earth 1 heroes...
Sure.
Go there or something.
Yeah, I mean, they want to take the John Byrne's generation. This is what we said. If they want to take John Byrne's Generations, make it a multiverse, and have a crossover, awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Already an Earth according to Multiversity.
So
yeah,
it feels. I would hope that whatever plans are in place, if they were getting that much blowback, enough to get the co-publisher fired. There's going to be changes. Yeah. I cannot imagine they're going to go ahead with the plans as is. Because to me, him being fired, that just shows a lack of faith in leadership. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not saying it's the right move. I have no idea. I'm not saying he should have been fired or shouldn't have been fired or that he's right and we don't know because none of us can possibly know.
Well, this is 5G is, I think, the first time in a long time where DC hasn't been completely openly honest with,
it's a mystery. It's
a mystery. But even with Rebirth, we had this mystery to it. But nobody, on the retailer side, they were at least
nobody knows anything until the minute it gets announced, right? I mean, nobody knew Rebirth was coming until Rebirth was announced. There may be some rumblings that they want to kind of do some stuff, but much like New 52, Rebirth happened very quickly. New 52, everything that I've heard, that was not years in the making. They were So you want to reboot everything next month? Sure, let's do it. Okay, cool. Let's figure this out. It went very quickly. Rebirth was very similar, where Johns was like, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up your story arcs. This is what's happening. So
I find it interesting that going back to this is the most times we've quoted Heidi MacDonald on any show ever, right? But going back to her article, she mentions it's kind of a throwaway line at one point in there about Dan's dislike of the sidekick characters.
Oh yeah, that's a oh man, if you searched Dan DiDio over the weekend. Yeah. It was like Wally West stands were like they were throwing a fucking party.
I still remember the Dan DiDio wants to kill Nightwing.
Oh yeah,
was that Infinite Crisis?
Yeah.
But her point in there was Dan's dislike of him stems from that an adult Dick Grayson therefore ages Batman by being an adult. So if he starts as Robin at 12 years old and he's now 30, do the math. Well, if that is true, if that's Dan's objection, it's interesting that he's the champion of this mysterious story that's all about aging the characters up and out.
Yeah.
Those things don't go together.
Right.
That's why I'm still wondering what the actual 5G is.
I mean, the solicitations say like Generation 5 is like the next generation of heroes, which...
But that could mean 1,000 years in the future.
Exactly. That's why I would not be surprised if that is what Generation 5 ends up being. You know, they're like, it's post-Kingdom Come, it's Batman Beyond, it's that stuff, and we'll just say, this is fun, and be over, and then Bruce Wayne is still Batman in the next issue. Yeah. But who knows? We could be sitting here in 6 months and...
Okay, so here's question
number 5G that they were talking about?
Well... It may be a lot sooner than we think.
Right.
C2E2 is this weekend. Dan DiDio and Jim Lee had a panel there. His name is off the official part of it, but his name is still in the text as of today, or as of yesterday. When I looked at
it's just a Jim Lee solo panel.
Right. And it's supposed to be about 5G.
Yeah.
So we even this weekend could know a hell of a lot more. Now watch, if he completely flips that panel or cancels the panel or something like that. Related to the Heidi thing. To the article. I do not believe DC was scheduled to have. I don't think I was not a Comics Pro this past weekend. The retailer organization convention.
That must have been a fun topic. I really should go.
They found out when they were there. It was a small team. There's only 2 people there. There were only 2 of the marketing, two of the marketing sales
Adam
guys.
And
I forget who the other guy was.
Yeah.
It was Adam Phillips, one of the other guys. The reports from people that I talked to that are there that were like, nobody knew this was coming. They didn't know it was coming. I don't know that they canceled their plans. As far as I know, that's all that was going to be there. And I think they still did their normal presentation, just kind of like, we're going to do it.
So there was some news, but could you watch this, please?
Yeah. I don't know that they really changed too much at Comics Pro, because they probably didn't know what they didn't know what's going on. Jim at C2E2 is a different story. I am very curious about that panel. I would hope they would live stream it. They probably won't, but I want reports from people. If you're at that panel, I think it's Friday at 6 p.m. That sounds right.
They do. They have done at cons some odd times for those Meet the Publishers.
Yeah. I want to say it's Friday at 6. That sounds right when I was looking at the schedule. I don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the time. So I am like, I want to know.
Okay, here you go. Question 2, the one I previewed for you.
So that's
well, we're going to segue right from Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Does DC hire a new person to fill the Dan DiDio role?
Well, they have to.
Is that role just kind of scattered to different people?
No, because publisher it oversees everything, right? And so that's not just a single issue comic book. That includes like collected editions and other stuff, right? I mean, he kind of oversees all of publishing. As far as I know, he oversees all of it. I believe that's editor-in-chief is specifically for the periodicals, but yeah, editorial he oversees all of it. I do not think they're going to keep Jim Lee as both CCO and sole publisher. That is not feasible. Jim should be CCO, period, and keep that position and dedicate all his time. The publishing end that he did, as far as I was ever able to figure out, was he dealt with the artists and Dan dealt with the writers. That's sort of how I think they described it in the early days. Maybe that changed a little bit more when Jim Lee became CCO in 2018, but I think they will hire someone. I think they will put someone in that position. Now, if they do move a Brian Cunningham or one of the senior editors at DC up to that position, that tells me this was all internal. They stick AT&T fucking Johnny into that position. That tells me there may be more to the story than we think. There could be some AT&T stuff. It's possible they just don't, right? It's possible they. I think you would have to, right? I don't. And also, Bob Harras is not going to suddenly be the guy on stage at Comic-Con.
No.
That is not his role. And like we were saying, right? It's funny that at DC it was the publisher role that kind of did that, but Dan kind of ran that when he was executive editor too. So it really was him. He was doing that when Paul Levitz was publisher. Paul was never the guy on stage getting the crowd riled up. That's not his style. So they have to get someone into that public face position. And at Marvel, it just continues to be the EIC. So I think they hire up. I think they bring someone up. There's a lot of great editors at DC. I follow a lot of them on Twitter. They're very fun people. I would love to see some of those guys, one of them get bumped up. I don't know the hierarchy. I don't know how it works. But I hope that anyone that left maybe under not the greatest of circumstances, if they felt that they could come back. I'm sure DC's hiring some new assistant editors and line editors.
It's funny that
it doesn't show any panels for C2E2 for DC.
I mean, it's something. Maybe they canceled it. I don't know. I'll take a look.
Yeah, the EIC is normally the guy or woman that you would associate with hands-on micromanagement.
Yeah,
in a negative way.
Right. And I don't know that Bob Harras is
I don't think so.
Ever had any.
Because one of the complaints with a lot of the talent from Marvel in the 80s was when Shooter came in.
Right.
That Shooter felt like, and this is me paraphrasing other people, Shooter felt like to justify my job in a way, I need to have my fingers in different pies, even if everything's going fine.
Right.
Like the EIC needs to do something. Yeah. Whereas Dick Giordano's style at DC in the same period was very much like the hands-off, laid-back, let the machine run on its own.
Yeah.
Now, Marvel was crushing DC in that time, so obviously the Shooter recipe, there's something to it. But this current model of...
But you also have creators that did not stick around.
Yep.
Look who... I mean, it was that like Byrne and Frank Miller and all those guys left, right?
Yeah.
So
to DC. Yeah. To Dick Giordano.
Yeah.
But in this current model, Bob Harras is kind of the invisible man, and I don't say that in a negative way.
They tried to put him and Bobby Chase on camera early, and that was a fucking spectacular failure. And I think they realized, you have no comment?
I've got to really talk around this very vaguely. Bob is a behind-the-scenes guy.
Yeah.
And that's not a negative at all.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Not everyone should be.
But Dan is a good public face for a company.
Yeah.
His personality, the way he runs a panel, the way he interacts with people.
Yeah. Very personal, very excited, very, very happy for the most part. Yeah.
He's a good face. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, why people turned against him.
Yeah.
I'm only talking about at a convention, at a retailer's group, whatever. Mm-hmm. Bob Harras is not that guy.
Right.
He's the guy you want keeping the trains running while someone else is out. Dan is the Stan Lee of DC.
Yeah, totally.
Stan was not running books, though, is a big difference.
Yeah.
When Stan was the Stan who we know now...
Like Stan in the 70s when Stan Lee was
publisher,
right? I mean, but he was not dictating story arcs and
you hear stories of how Stan would come in and review art and stuff like that, but Stan would kind of drift through the office.
Well, didn't Stan kind of establish like the editor-in-chief was kind of that guy that the hype man kind of guy for it?
I think that was him, but that was out of necessity of they had no one. He was the only guy.
Yeah.
So he made the position himself.
No.
And that's why I don't see like. I think there's some, they could. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they could pull a Joe Quesada. If they want to offer Snyder fucking the world, he is a very.
I mean, he's been running that Batman. I mean, he was running Batman like the group for how long?
Come on, get the champagne ready to pop. It's Morrison. Come on.
Oh. I mean,
God, you thought the 5G like whiteboards were crazy.
I mean, I love Morrison, but like, I don't know that I want Morrison as like publisher of DC Comics. That'd be odd.
Record this statement. I want that on the record.
I want him writing, right? Yeah. I mean, I want Scott writing too, but some creators have that ability, and if someone's looking to get into management, or someone's we talk about editors that have gone into done more creative stuff. Peter Tomasi, he's gone from editorial to creative, and it's fantastic. I mean, plenty of people go the other way too. Occasionally,
I'll tell you somebody who I would throw a name in if we're talking about filling the DiDio role.
Yeah,
I don't know what the interest level would be. But I'm saying if you just want someone in there so that while the ship is hitting rough waters, and you want somebody, Karen Berger.
Oh yeah, they bring her in.
Right.
That's a steady hand who's been there.
A lot of creators would return for her.
Yes.
So
we might actually see Seeds finished.
I think you have Neil Gaiman probably come back and do something.
Once he's finished with Miracle Man, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Come on.
Sure.
Come on, the clock's ticking. It's late February.
Yeah, so that's
2020.
That's Dan DiDio. A lot of questions, but let's get to some of these questions.
Are they all about Dan or just
some of them are? Some of them are. Yeah.
We should do an email tonight.
Let's see.
From 2000 something.
We get to some of these. I got
from
some
the start
questions
of Dan's
here.
tenure.
Jonathan says, from Metalman to OMAC, the Superboy, Dan DiDio has also been a writer as well as an editor-publisher. What's your favorite Dan DiDio authored project? It honestly might be Metalman right now. I have
Metalman's okay.
I've been very mixed on a lot of his writing. OMAC was a cool idea, but it's a cool idea, but there just wasn't like an audience for that book.
Yeah.
His Superboy stuff was fine.
His Phantom Stranger wasn't too bad.
Okay. Yeah. I have enjoyed the Car Metalman book.
He butchered Outsiders for a minute, but like
he did write that.
He did like right at towards the end,
quick.
And I was like, "What the?" And it wasn't that it was horrible. It was just like, all right, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if I had to say so, it would probably have to be his Phantom Stranger. That stuff was really, really good.
Yeah.
I haven't read Metalman.
Okay, yeah. The covers are awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about being the king. You get to pull any creator you want to do your variant covers. Yeah. Oh, I got to show you that Brian Boland variant cover. It just went up. Yeah, they posted on the DC Retailer Forum. Christopher says, has there been any speculation or rumors as to what's going to happen with Metalman? That's a fun series. So DC actually did say Metalman's continuing. It's going to finish its run. I don't believe anyone's taking over. They didn't say anything like that.
No, I saw somewhere that Dan is finishing the book.
And they could also keep him around if he wants to do a series every now and again. I don't know that maybe makes a ton of financial sense, but he could do more writing for DC. He also says, my wife bought me a bunch of the self-sealing comic book bags.
Who is this?
This is Chris. This is my first experience with these, and in theory, they are great. However, in reality, these things are demon spawn. Those damn little strips get all over everything. Yep. Never again. Am I missing something here, or do these things really suck that bad?
Nope.
We occasionally get people asking for them, and I do not carry them. I will happily order you a case if you want, but do not waste your money. The self-selling comic books are bags are terrible.
Let's just put it this way. I fucking won't even use them for shipping.
No,
like they're garbage.
Use them for shipping. That's fine. Yeah. But they are bad. They are bad and annoying. Yeah. You cannot reuse them. You open them and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like some everlasting like glue that you can take on and off forever.
Kudos to your wife for trying. Like, she's making an effort. He said his wife bought them. I'm like, kudos. Like, tell your wife thanks. It's great. They didn't work out. I'm gonna stick with these.
Yeah, it doesn't work for something that you actually would want to open regularly.
Or in 10 years when you sell your collection and I have to open, the store has to open those fucking things.
Other Chris says, I really enjoyed the first issue of
Chris's do we
Benjamin
got?
Percy's, and there's a lot of Chris's out there, Benjamin Percy's Wolverine. That just came out this last week. And also enjoying his run so far in X-Force. I'm also reading New Mutants and actually really enjoying the amalgamation of the original New Mutants characters with the Generation X. Thoughts on these books and any other Hickman books? Well, Chris... I'm going to recommend you listen to next week's episode because I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of X-Men talk.
Except there's a big assumption in what you're saying.
There's going to be a lot of talk about the X-Men and a lot of excuses as to why certain people maybe aren't reading as many X-Men comic books as they could.
Comic books in general.
Or comic books, period.
What are you hinting at?
We'll talk more about X-Men next week. I'm sure.
Tune in then.
I'm sure
yes.
we'll talk all about the X-Men.
In fact, Chris, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there will be opinions about these books, even if they have not been read.
I mean, clearly, Excalibur is better than every DC comic, right? That is a phrase that will be spoken on the podcast next week. Okay. Anderban says, what's your opinions on Tiny Ian's Batman run so far?
Are we going to give Chris our opinions a little bit, or no?
Next week?
Okay.
Chris, next week. What do you think of Tiny Ian's Batman run so far? Do you think he'll be on the book long term, or will DC be looking to tap someone higher profile? Well, he has another question, but let's answer that right now. You could not have a hotter book than Batman right now. Thank you, Art Germ, for retweeting my tweet where I told people that they moved Art Germ's variant cover of Punchline, Joker's new girlfriend's character.
First cover appearance, baby.
From 94 to 92, which is on FOC on March 9th. So you have a few weeks to order Punchline's first cover appearance, Batman 92. It's hot. Got a full case to sell you, Kevin. for free shipping.
Hulk number 180 is a hot, classic, highly sought-after book.
Yeah.
Because not everybody was expecting it to be one.
All right. You got to play the game. You got to play that speculation game. In 5 years, maybe she'll be the next Harley Quinn.
Or maybe she'll be forgotten.
Probably.
She'll be the Typhoid Mary of DC.
More likely. That is the more likely scenario. No. I think this is Tiny Ian's big break. I think this is setting him up for the big leagues.
Well, so are you caught up with?
I just haven't read the most recent one. It's good. I like it.
No, it's going from Tom King and him have two distinctly different styles of writing.
Oh, and his run on Detective was fantastic.
His run on Detective was fantastic. His team, his issues from Justice League were some of the best issues I've read in a long time. Like the Joker Lex Battle in the Legion of Doom headquarters, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
We're just dropped in the middle of a Batman story going forward, and I mean, I'm kind of getting feelings of when I went back when I first read Hush, and it was kind of a big stories being told over a handful of issues, 12 issues. This feels like we're getting a big story told over not 12 issues, but at least something.
Oh, it's a big arc, and it's an action-y arc, and I'm assuming that they were like, we love Tom King, but let's do the exact opposite of Tom King.
We need to bang, pow, Batman needs to be kicking
which is great. I love both takes. I love both. He also says, if each podcaster could be DC's publisher for a hot minute, just enough to take and implement a single decision, what would that decision be? Nothing wild, like buying out Marvel, but something within the realm of possibility.
I've already given my answer a few weeks ago, but I'll repeat it, but you guys can go first.
Yeah. I totally my answer. I've said this before. I think, and this also goes to Marvel, I think DC should have whether it's an ongoing series of miniseries or an ongoing book like Showcase, whatever it is, a series specifically designed for your best.
You bring Brave and the Bold.
And your newest creators to do whatever the hell they want with any character they want, set in any time. They can contact random people, a little bit like that Commandy Challenge, but almost like it's experimental. It's fun. It uses oddball characters. It can do anything. Ordering it would be a fucking nightmare. So, as a retailer, I would love some sort of like returnability program or some sort of like we'll ship you like just a case and everyone can figure it out. Blah blah blah. But we can deal with that later. But one of Dan's greatest strengths in DC is his love of the weird characters. They're some of my favorite characters too. I love Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, yada 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 yada. But I love the fucking oddball characters. And if you give someone, okay, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, a lot of people will do some Batman stuff, but people are going to be like, fucking Ambush Bug. I'm going to fucking do the weirdest Ambush Bug story ever, and it's not Keith Giffen working on it. It's someone else, right? Or I'm going to do Sugar and Spike, or I'm gonna bring in Batmite, or I want to work on an Batman animated universe story.
I want to do a 6-issue miniseries on Mentalplex.
I want to do a one shot set in the DC. I want to do the Snyder Cut. I want to do a comic book of the Snyder Cut. Like these, if I could just literally anything they want. I think it's a great idea. It's fun, it's experimental. You get new talent, you get new people trying out stuff, and who knows? You get some cool ideas. Turn that shit into another ongoing book. That is what I would love. It does not matter how much money the book makes. It does not matter how much the book sells. It is a separate experimental. It's their R&D department.
I
really think they should have
indie
this.
book. Or it's the indie movie that gets made by the studio because the blockbuster made so much money.
But it doesn't even have to be that. It can also be. It has the potential to be one of the highest selling books of the month, depending. Again, if you give every creator that you work with free reign to do something, Frank Miller's like, fuck, I'll do like an 80-page issue all by myself. That's a very different than a bunch of nobodies doing an Ambush Bug miniseries.
Well, your idea is similar enough to mine that I'll just say I agree. I think mine was take a label, if it's Black Label, whatever, where it's just non-mainstream creators.
Yeah.
Coming in like Dead Earth, the Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is freaking great so far.
It's in my pile.
I read the first one.
I just want to wait till it's done, and then I'll read them all.
So much fun. But where come play in our sandbox.
Yeah.
Well, Far Sector.
You can do a 3-issue series. You can do a 12-issue series. You can do an annual. Yeah. It's wide open. It's non-continuity. And so I think the difference in our ideas is you're thinking like it's open to the whole bullpen. My whole idea was people who aren't doing current DC books.
Sure, but that's what I meant. Any like if you want to come to DC,
we're not putting you under contract for exclusive.
We're just gonna file these away. Yep. We're gonna pay.
How many pages do you need? 3 issues, 3 standard issues, 2 oversized. 12 monthlies?
Well, for me, I even like the one-shot idea. To me, like the Brave and the Bold or the Showcase, the one-off. Because what can you do in those 20 pages?
But have fun ordering.
Pages?
Have fun ordering. Yeah.
A problem I'll worry about when I become I have become a publisher at DC. I don't have to worry about ordering comics.
But see,
I have to worry about selling comics.
But this thing is you forgot that you built in your own fix to that. In that you would make this item something that has returnability to it as the publisher. Sure. So. I mean, for me, it's kind of along the same lines as you guys. I think it's just like more, being more open to the 6-issue, 3-issue kind of experimental little this creator wants to do this character, just go and run with it, right? Yeah. And we have such a huge playground with with the multiverse and now the dark multiverse. Some of the funnest stuff I read last year was the Tales from the Dark Multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those are really, really good.
Yeah.
And the ordering for them was decent, but I think more people found out about them and were drawn to them after the fact. And with Dark Metal coming out, I think you're going to see more people try and find those issues. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Next question.
From Zach, he says, I know a lot of opinions about Dan, but in your opinion as a retailer, and it'll be kind of already answered this, but we'll touch on it again. He goes, what did you think of him personally and as the publisher? And just kind of circle back to what he'd said before. Again, I met him a number of times, talked to him a handful of times. He's a super nice guy. And I think he did a good job as publisher from the retailer point of view. Obviously, internally, maybe a little bit different, but I'm very happy with the last 10 years of DC.
No, I mean he's
there are problems. There are definite problems, but it's funny when Quesada stepped down and Axel Alonso took over. Was there someone in between? I can't remember. I feel like there was someone in between. Maybe not. People were excited when they let Axel Alonso go. It felt kind of like, yeah. Okay.
Thank God.
Not thank God, but this makes sense. It felt different with Dan. Yeah. Just I think the reaction seemed a little bit different.
Well, I think, like you said, it's kind of a mixed.
There were some people that are fucking throwing parties. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed reaction because I think what like what we've talked about, the charisma that Dan had, the excitement, with
Alonso, I understand because of sales, and with Dan, it's not the sales.
No, with Dan, it's
seemingly internal.
Yeah,
so it's very different. All right. Craig P. Anderson asks.
Oh, Craig.
Well, he asks about Jim Lee. Are they going to leave Jim solely in charge? He goes, but if you answered that, I have another question for you, so we'll answer the second question.
Well played, Craig. Look he's anticipating what might have already been covered.
The second question is much better. Okay,
it's like he knows us.
He said, if you were in the Legion of Superheroes, what would your code name be?
Well, his would be Binding Boy.
I'm Twitter Lad. Okay, I'll be Twitter Lad.
No, you're Troll Boy.
I'm not a
fucking Troll Boy.
I'm not a troll. I'll be Twitter Boy. Twitter Kid.
I don't know. You guys have to name me.
What would you be?
Ginger Ball.
I'll take it. You could get the lad or lass or kid or boy.
Yeah.
No, I'll just take Ginger Ball.
Or you want to be go like the Wildfire or Dawn Star, the later versions.
Yeah.
Blazing Ginger. That's my name. Blazing Ginger.
I'll take it.
I don't have to have a suit.
Jack asks, what's the pros and cons of...
Is this Illy?
Jack Ildefonso. Yeah, what's the pros and cons of pressing that you have encountered?
Oh, God, fuck.
I got my press.
Oh, my God.
I got a...
Okay, no, stop. Before you go all off on this. So I come into the shop, and there's... So... 2.5 weeks ago now, there's a tweet that's sent out of a picture of a table in the back with a press on it, and I am added on this. And the reason I'm added on this is because there's a table taking up space in the area that I cleared space out of in the back room. So, whatever. Fine. That's my personal hell. I come into work, and Ryan is like, this press, and it's cool, but do you see this? And it's really, really interesting. It's very interesting. It's a concept that I've heard about, but actually seeing it work. And of course, watching you having to labor over watching YouTube videos is just amazing.
I stopped that because
but yes, It's fun to watch you go through this.
Well, so I got. It's nothing fancy. I got a cheap comic press. It basically is a T-shirt,
it's a press. Yeah.
Like for flattening shirts and putting them in bags and it's used for all sorts of garment wear. But it also is a fucking hot plate that can put a lot of pressure down, and that's what a presses. That's what people use to press comics. So I did a little research. I talked to some people, experimented on a few books. My what I've seen varies wildly from everything else I've read. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different idea of what's right, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't. I can just experiment, play around with it. There's some things you need. some of the paper to make sure you're not actually like burning the book. I mean, there's things you want to do, but it works really well. Yeah. Now you're not, books have damage. You're not going to get that damage away, right? But if books are kind of bendy or crushed a little bit, or they've got some kind of funk, they're kind of dinged up, they're sort of like curled on the side. You've really this comic press, the heat will get into the. It works better for older books. Like I haven't messed around with too many newer books.
A couple modern books you did
a couple, but they have like more glossy cover stocks, and there's all sorts of weird stuff. Like if you try to press like one of the DC variant covers, you probably catch the book on fire because like it's all super glossy, right?
Well, and it's a card stock.
You would like melt it, yeah. So with the older books, especially, I've been doing a lot of like Silver Age, Bronze Age, 80s stuff.
Good stuff.
It's it may not put you up a grade or two, but it makes the book a lot more presentable, and you got to be careful. Heat.
I think
pressure.
I think with some of the ones you've done, it can greatly vary on what it is. Like you said, if there's waves and you're just trying to get a couple waves out, I mean, you can jump 2 grades if it's just kind of.
There was one or two that were like, this goes from $1 book to something I can actually put in the back issue bin. It's not going to make it a $100 book, but it's now a $30 book as opposed to something I was going to throw in the trash. So that is good. It makes it can do quite a bit of work. Now, I have not messed around with modern stuff, but a lot of people use presses for modern stuff when they want to send them off to CGC. Fucking good luck. Do whatever. I don't know. I don't deal with that stuff. But you get a nice run of, like, let's say X-Men in. We got some nice Byrne Claremont X-Men, but they all were like a little funky, right? Mm-hmm. They all kind of had sat in a box weird for years, and so they're all curly and they are straight as an arrow now. Mm-hmm. Like, they look beautiful. Yeah, they're cool. It's neat. I haven't burnt anything or like messed up a book or anything weird.
You almost burnt something the other day. You forgot to put the paper down. You're like,
just real quick. I was like, oops.
But I will say this: it does make that the covers pop again. Like
it does seem to like pull the color out. It
pulls
or something.
The color. Yeah. It does something where it makes it pop. Like it's not like it's like. It's not like I don't know what it is. It's not like I just took this comic off the rack in whatever year it was released. It's like, but it feels like it's
not magic. It doesn't like fix a missing page or something like that. But it does. Yeah, it does. It does something to the cover. Maybe it's like the heat activates the ink or something. I have no fucking idea what it does. But it's pretty cool. Look up some videos and then experiment and see what works best for you. Final question from Patreon, then we'll do a couple on Twitter. Tyler says, and this is a great way to merge into my next topic here real quick. After Disney sells Marvel, who then buys DC, what comic will Tom King get fired from because sales are at an all-time low of 80,000 copies twice a month? Tyler, that is some snark that I love to see. That sounds like something I would have tweeted. For the love of God, do not follow Ethan Van Sciver on Twitter. Do not go to Ethan Van Sciver's YouTube page. Do not follow or ever send anyone an article from Cosmic Book News. Also, we got this covered. They're fucking scumbags, but they're scumbags in a different direction. They are Comic-Gate trolls. Yeah. They are liars. Ethan Van Sciver is a grifter at this point. Mm-hmm. He is lying to you to make you happy about being angry, so you go to his monetized YouTube videos so he can make money off your anger.
Mm-hmm. And maybe, just maybe, get you to kickstart a Cyberfrog comic that will never
will never ship. So he 5G's the end of DC. They're going to shut down Warner Brothers. Are going to shut down DC. Dude, I think it was Jamal Engel maybe posted on Twitter. I can't remember. He had some good numbers that DC costs about $10 million,
but makes
but is a $1 billion company, and then you have licensing and stuff on top of that. Like to actually run DC Comics, it's fairly cheap. Comic books cost pennies, it makes the Joker justifies another decade of DC Comics existing. Okay, like DC's not going anywhere. And now that's not to say AT&T can't shutter everything next year for completely unrelated reasons. A Boom could go out of business tomorrow if something happens, right? Like nobody can say for sure what anything is. Disney could totally close Marvel if it wanted to, right? I mean, all these things could happen, but 5G not selling well does not mean suddenly like that's a trigger that pulls the chute or that pulls the lever and DC is closed down. Like that's not how that happens. So, and again, 2 ideas could make billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars for the company over a decade or two, right? It's look at the money that comes from Injustice, from the movies. I mean, clearly CW fucking wants anything and everything that DC is willing to do. They're not doing this and losing money. They're all profitable because they keep getting more. That means it's successful. So, yeah.
I'm
curious. To think of it.
I'm curious as to what Tyler thinks about your casting pick for She-Hulk.
Oh, Alison Brie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm totally down with Alison Brie for She-Hulk. Sorry, for Jen Walters, because clearly She-Hulk will be CG, because what else would she be? But no, people were like, we're looking for a Alison Brie type person to play Jen Walters. It's like, well, fucking just pick Alison Brie then. That's perfect casting. You nailed it again, Marvel. You did it. You're so good at that. I don't know how they do it. They're so good at casting. Do you agree? You like Alison Brie for Jen Walters?
I'm completely neutral on that character, but I do like Alison Brie.
Yeah.
So why not?
Just so you know, Jen Walters is only 5'1".
Some people.
How do you know that fact?
We looked it up.
In
we were
the official handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Some people
She-Hulk
were like,
is like 6'9".
Some people were like, no, you have to cast some like buff lady to play. And I'm like, no, that's She-Hulk. Yeah. Look at Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is not Lou Ferrigno.
Look at the cover of She-Hulk #1, the original series, because they're both on the cover with a giant muscular She-Hulk
huge. Yes.
behind Jen Walters.
Yes.
Now, I don't really like the She-Hulk that's been in Captain Marvel. That one's a little...
Well, yeah, I mean, she got roided, but hey, it takes all types. Cross X Hunter on Twitter says, with the first season finished, do y'all plan on doing a Harley Quinn spoiler discussion segment? I did watch the finale of the first, and they are going to come back for season 2, like, really fucking quick. I think it's April is season 2.
I need to borrow.
You got to borrow.
Do that.
No spoilers for right now. I don't want to spoil Barack. We can maybe talk about it in a few months.
I know Kite Man is
a few weeks. Kite Man. Oh, forget Mr. Miracle. Forget everything else Tom King has done. Kite Man is his legacy. Okay.
Quote it right here, Kevin. You heard it. Kite Man is
hell yeah.
Tom King's legacy.
Tom King's Kite Man's all over the Harley Quinn show. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I'll have to borrow it.
It is so good. He also says, how have the main continuity Harley Quinn books been over the past few years? I was reading the New 52 book for a while through the Power Girl stuff. I've said this before. I am so far behind on the Harley book. I'm a little Harley'd out. Yeah, it's okay.
So like the Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner stuff was good. I think just with, there was a point where we had the main series, and then they were also writing mini series on top of all of this stuff, and it was like Jimmy and Amanda. And it's like it's great, but at some point you needed kind of a break from their writing style of her. Mm-hmm. And I think the miniseries would have given you that if it was other people writing it. Mm-hmm. But it was the Deadpool thing, right? It's like, oh, we can just slap Harley on it and have a miniseries and sell 50 bajillion extra copies of it because it's Harley Quinn. With the Rebirth stuff, again, it's been really cool. It's really fun. Who's on it now? Humphreys?
Yeah.
Humphreys has done it. Mark Russell's done a couple issues. So it's quirky and it's fun and it's all over the place. And I think now with Rebirth and Amanda and Jimmy being off of it for a while, we're kind of getting a different feel to it.
Yeah.
So it's
different than it was under them.
Yeah. But we have it back with Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey with the Black Label book. But now Jimmy and Amanda can push the envelope a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they pushed the envelope as much as they could with that with Harley when they had her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. Stefano says, what indie creator or non-Big Two creator do you think deserves a crack on some big comics? For me, it'd be Ramon Villalobos to be given a real chance at interiors for a Big Two book. He's in the same wheelhouse as Raphael Grandpa and got done dirty due to Border Town, where they fired the writer. Right. Yep, for a bunch of Me Too stuff. So, he's great. He's a great artist. Has he not done more? I guess he didn't do anything after that. Not at DC, not at Vertigo, huh?
Since Border Town.
Yeah.
How many issues did that end up being? 3?
I think 2 or 3 came out, yeah.
Well, I think, though, like a lot of the independent artists that are out there, their style really just has to fit with something that, with a writer or a character from the Big Two. Like,
Kevin, you've been on the art hunt recently.
You're on the art scene, man.
Yeah.
My pick would have been Daniel Warren Johnson, but it's obviously happened.
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview with him where he said his original idea was he wanted to do a Pa Kent miniseries, a Black Label Pa Kent, like pre-Superman arrival.
Yeah.
Pa Kent.
Cool.
When Pa Kent was a drinking, just crazy young man and farm rancher boy.
You know what? I think there was something to do with religion in it, which is what made the editor kind of say, "Could we think of something else?"
Man,
Vertigo
giving up Second Coming was a mistake.
Johnson would have been my pick, though.
Yeah,
and I think he's killing it on that Wonder Woman book.
Yeah,
and yes, let's not rub in my art budget, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there, but I think it really just depends on character and who they're working with.
Like we were saying before, I'd love them to just be like, yeah, do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Travis wants to know, Batman 92, Punchline finally does something. How many wall copies you're getting, and will speculators care? Oh, Batman 92, it's going to be a big book. Even if nobody cares, it's going to be a big book. The speculators are already pre-ordering. Lots of orders coming up for that. Batman's girlfriend. And she's straight in You're the Villain, so... I mean,
it's her first appearance. No, it's her second cameo.
People can second cameo. She's got straight up 4 or 5 panels in that book. Does she talk? I don't remember if she has a line, but that Batman 92 is her first full issue. But now, this You're the Villain's her first appearance.
So, I got a bunch of good books to get you. Can you get me Hellrisen?
No. Oh, I do have to answer this. Should I save this for Toby?
No,
Toby's not going to be here for.
Who knows when Toby's coming back?
Cross Hunter has one more real quick question. He says, "Can you explain the story of the Red Robin guy from the shop? I feel like you mentioned him years ago, and it stuck with me. I was wondering what the deal there was." Yeah. I feel like I thought
we've talked about it.
I thought we had talked about this
Red Robin before. Yeah,
we had this is when Toby was actually working here, at the shop, more than once a year. This is when he was working here, kind of regularly. And we had this very angry customer that came in that he was yelling at Toby because we hadn't pulled him a variant cover for the Red Robin comic. This was pre-New 52, right? Mm-hmm. When Robin was Red Robin.
They had a Red Robin comic of pre-New 52 for a little bit.
And this is way pre-Comic Hub and any of that stuff, so it's just if we get the variant, we get it, but, I don't know, it was there was a 1 in 25 variant. I don't even think we got 25 copies, so, it wasn't the thing I ever get. And I get this call from Toby, and this dude's screaming in the background. And Toby's this guy says you're supposed to pull this book for him, and I'm I don't fucking know what he's talking about. He gets a couple random books, but I don't know anything about this. So I told Toby dude, if this dude's flipping out at you, tell him to hit the road.
Yeah.
Well, I think he ended up not coming back, or came back once and left, or something weird like that. I don't remember what happened, but like a couple years later, he comes in, and I knew him because I'd set up his box or whatever. He comes in, and I'm like, huh, okay. You just randomly wandered back in.
Expecting to get shanked.
And he's walking around the store, and he starts talking to one of my regulars that's here, and he's like, oh, yeah, this is a pretty cool store. I've never been here before. And I'm like, huh? And I don't know if, like, there may have been one or two things off with this guy. Clearly,
well,
something was off.
He also jumped over to Elusive.
Yes, under like a different name. Right.
Yeah, it was like, and it was the same first name, but he changed his last name.
Okay.
And then he jumped back to you.
He tried to.
Oh yeah,
I think he gave like Marshall or someone.
No, it was Charlie.
Was it Charlie?
It was Charlie. He gave Charlie the
like. And I think like it was like it was the same address or the phone, like something was like I triggered it. I was like, wait a minute, that's that guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever actually came back.
No, he didn't come. No,
I think he tried to.
He tried to, and you would. I think you would. He had an email or something. You called him or emailed him or something and said, nope, you had something here before. You just left. You know we can't open a subscription box for you. And I think that's when he went over to Elusive.
I think he had gone. Yeah, he bopped around. I think
but he was hopping around from different. I think he was hopping because he might have even gone to Heroes.
I think he went to like every shop in the area. Yeah. So that's Red Robin guy.
No, he was fucking, because I saw him a couple times. Like when he would come in, it was funny because we were at the old location. You would literally like wait, like you would get my attention and be like, and point and be like, oh, okay,
yeah. Ooh, here's one from Alan. With DiDio gone, should the new publisher encourage DC to buy up some small indie publishers to increase the DC line diversity? It's been a while since a comic well, what, Oni and Lionforge merged? Was it Oni?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. There's been a couple, and I know IDW bought one other company a couple of years back. Like they sort of did a little merge, but no one's Marvel and DC.
Marvel and DC haven't really acquired.
I don't think anything. Wildstorm would be the last thing DC bought.
Yeah,
and that's because they hired Jim Lee. I mean, it's right. You get me and my company. Marvel. When the hell has Marvel ever bought another company? Malibu, right?
No.
I don't.
What is it with the Mr. Miracle stuff? Did they buy something at that time? They signed the deal with the original creator's estate, and then...
Oh, Miracle Man.
Yeah,
Don't pull the Higgins and call it Mr. Miracle, because then I'm sitting here wondering, what the hell are you talking about?
Oh, did I pull that? Sorry.
Yes, you just called it Mr. Miracle.
Well, I knew what he meant.
Yeah, with Mick Anglo as the creator. His estate, but McFarlane owned it.
But Gaiman got the rights. He didn't own it. Right, he didn't own it, and when Gaiman
it was Apocalypse Comics. Who was the publishing?
Eclipse.
Oh,
but it wasn't. Eclipse just was a republisher.
Yeah,
they were just licensing to reprint.
There's a whole book about this.
Yeah,
like a guy literally had enough material to write a full length book about the history of Miracle Man, and that doesn't mean like the creative history. It means the legal and publication history.
That's amazing.
But anyway, it'll be out in 2020, so we can. The next Miracle Man issues will be out in 2020.
Yeah, sure.
Right
after Saga and Snyder Cut and
Three Jokers.
Three Jokers. Yeah. Well, I mean, we already got solicitations through May. We're 0 for 4, so we'll see what happens.
Well, there's no money riding on this one. So.
Zach Fig says, what's the worst excuse you get from someone that is not a regular looking to get a copy of Batman 89? I don't have one for Batman 89. I mean, we got all the same excuses. But you're the villain.
Oh, this one's good.
Guy calls, and he's like, I've got a great deal for you.
I'm surprised you didn't just hang up.
So the second someone says that, I'm like, okay, let's go with it. Let's see how this goes.
I've got some boxes of sweet old comics
that you can press.
They're so old.
Yeah.
They're from the 90s.
I've got 10, this Superman in a black sealed bag.
That's actually worth a couple bucks. He says...
Yeah, but we got like 50 of those.
He says, I've got a lot of really hot books that you could put on your wall and sell today. I'm like, okay. He's like, I just want some trade for them, maybe some cash, some trade. I'm like, okay. He said, but I want to use some of that trade towards a copy of Year of the Villain. And as he's about to say it, I'm like, Year of the Villain, hell or is it and everything. And I'm like, and I just pause. I mean, part of me wanted to just like laugh and hang up, but I just paused and I was like, fortunately, we are sold out of that right now, so sorry. And like the saddest, just like sigh and like, I don't know why that's what every store's telling me, and I just want a copy. I'm like, sorry, we sold out like weeks ago. And it was just sort of like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm like, I can't help you. I'm very sorry. Like, this is the end of the conversation. I do not want your shitty books. I'm not going to give you a copy of Hell or Is It number 3. So, it's...
And you missed a great opportunity of gatekeeping.
Oh, yeah, I could have asked him. Well, again, yeah, the other great thing is what happened. If you tell me what happens in issue number 2, I'll give you issue number 3. So, yeah.
There could be a segment on this show, much like the email segment that never happens, of just like odd customer stories.
It's like crank yankers, but of my actual phone calls.
Or it doesn't even have to be phone calls, because I remember so many weirdo customers from working in a comic store.
There's quite a few.
Yeah. There was one right before we closed tonight, right?
Quite a few. Let's burn through a few of these real quick.
Yeah, because they're getting a bonus episode this week.
They are getting a bonus episod this week of our end of a decade talk. All the Patreons heard it last week. You guys are going to get a bonus episode. Let's say we got 2 left here. From Chad, he says, are any of you fans of newspaper adventure strips from the 30s through 50s? That's a big yes from Kevin over there.
Yeah.
What do you like?
I don't know what he's counting as adventure.
I mean,
the Flash Gordon, that Alex Raymond Flash Gordons are.
And they finished collecting that recently.
Yeah, is that IDW? No.
I think it's Fantagraphics.
Yeah. Oh, I love those.
Those are beautiful.
And the Hal Foster Prince Valiant.
Mm-hmm. They did that a while
ago.
Those
have been out.
We collected those.
Yeah.
I think I talked about this. I picked up the first maybe 10 years of Dick Tracy. I thought that stuff was really cool, but it is fucking never ending.
No.
It was like, maybe if I get another room to store graphic novels in, I don't have room for like 80 of these hardcovers.
Yeah. Could you technically dig under your house?
But I like that. I like that early Dick Tracy stuff is really good.
There's also was a really cool collection, and you had a copy sitting on the used shelf here for some unfathomable reason. There was a hardcover collection. They do these ones of the Silver Age superheroes. And there's a Superman Silver Age newspaper strip. Every strip is drawn by Kurt Swan at the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Oh, those are just beautiful. Yep. Although the questioner was asking about the 30s and 40s. These were from the 50s, I'm going a little beyond.
Well, he says 30 through 50s.
Oh, okay, yeah. Those would be my picks. Prince Valiant, Flash Gordon, and the Silver Age Superman.
Let's answer the question from Dan. There's a couple people we couldn't get to, but I can't go too long here. Dan says, could you share your thoughts on a comment about Batman that Ryan, myself, made in a recent podcast? How is Batman simultaneously the most used comic book character, not just in books, but in movies and other forms? He also never seems to be overused or overexposed. I mean, I think people can absolutely argue that he's overexposed, but people don't get sick of Batman. I know they just announced like the second line of the McFarlane DC figures, and it's like
5 Batman.
It's all Batman stuff, right? Like, they know what side the bread they're buttered on. Batman is just, like I said, I think
there's a Batman for everybody.
I think it's just something about that character that,
like if you went around the table right now and said, "What's your favorite bat suit?" now, right? It would probably be completely different answers.
Yeah. So there's lots of great stories. There's lots of great takes on the character. He's human, which I think is, for dumb people that are like, I don't like Superman. The humanity of Batman is a major part of the character. He has
humanity.
Some of the, arguably the best supporting cast in comic books, arguably the best villains in comics. Some of the best creators of all time have worked on Batman. Yeah. Some of the best superhero films of all time have been Batman. So he is blessed with the best talent in the fields. The best comic book video games of all time are Batman, right? Well, maybe some people may like the Spider-Man game more, but everything when it's Batman, it tends to be a higher quality. Now, whether that's because they expect it or they're like, it's Batman, so it has to be the best. I don't know, chicken and egg sort of situation, but yeah, it's Batman. I fucking does love Batman.
Where does he get such wonderful toys?
Cheaper to do than a big CG Superman movie in some ways.
I don't know about that giant penny and that dinosaur, though.
Oh, they were pretty big. Yeah, Kevin, nothing? You're nodding?
No, you've covered it.
There you go.
Next question.
He asked you guys, but I'll take.
Well, no, but you've covered it. The rogues gallery, the supporting cast, the different ways that a creator can interpret the character. Just look at the Morrison Arkham Asylum versus the Morrison regular run on Batman, and both of those are completely valid interpretations of the character.
Yeah. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know what they could do to make Batman not interesting.
Could the market support a third monthly Batman title?
It used to support 4, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm saying the current market. Could you?
Well, we have Batman Superman. We do have
a solo Batman book.
We basically have 2 ongoing miniseries at every
point. There's the Batman's Grave, right?
Yeah, and there's endless Black Label and other specials and stuff. So there kind of always is 3 to 4 Batman books going on,
and there's not a lot of characters you could say that about.
Yeah. But if they were we're going to launch another ongoing solo Batman title, I don't see. If the creative team was good, it would sell.
Written and drawn by Neil Adams.
Let's save him for the miniseries. Save him for the specials. That is a podcast mostly about Dan DiDio, but we also talked about some other stuff. Next week should be very different. Bryce is coming back, as we hinted earlier. Bryce is scheduled to be here next week, so of course I never like to confirm till he's finally entered the building.
Oh, that's why we're talking X-Men next week?
He's brought in his Chipotle that he then eats 3 hours after we finish the podcast.
But see, this is what people miss out on when you can't see it visually, because you might have Bryce with his Chipotle, but that was more when he was here, right? Since he's been coming in.
It's like a 6-pack when he comes in now.
He has a 6-pack. He'll sometimes get DoorDash. And he'll have a suitcase with him, like a roller suitcase.
Yeah. So we should have Bryce on next week, and I have no idea what fucking Toby. He'll be back whenever the hell Toby's back, so yeah.
You don't know the answer to this?
No, I have no idea. No, I have no clue.
Toby and I and Lane will be at Emerald City in 3 weeks.
Okay.
So he will be back in the U.S. by then, for sure.
I'm sure he will be on the podcast after Emerald City so I can hear all the wacky stories. Good. Have fun.
Yeah, I would stock up on my sleep and vitamins before going.
You're gonna need Monday off when you come back, okay? But we'll be back next week for a probably slightly more traditional episode. I'm sure we got lots of news we missed this week to talk about as well. But Dan was a big part of comics, and I definitely wanted to talk about that and clear the air on some of the bad rumors that are out there. And hopefully, you guys, if you're a little concerned, you're less concerned now. Joe Duff. He's one of our high-tier Patreon backers. We want to thank him, as well as Andrew Nelson Mendez over Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast, Craig Anderson over at CraigPAnderson.com, Jimmy Rivera at the socialforum.buzzsprout.com. That's FOURUM4 forum. And James Laws. Thank you all for your continued support on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Comic Conspiracy. And you do have a couple more days if you want to get in on the March Patreon. We'll go through and read everyone's name for the mid-level backers. And if you want to kick us $1 or $3, get those high-tier backers, or a little bit more than $1 or $3. You get the high-tier backers, and we'll give you a promotion every week for your podcast or your website or whatever you do, assuming your name isn't Ethan Van Sciver. If you would like to go to ComicConspiracyPodcast.com, Geekbox.net, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, you can find all our previous episodes. YouTube.com/ComicsConspiracy is where you can find our our shows in audio format only, but they are on YouTube if you like YouTube. The Comic Conspiracy at geekbox.net is where you can send us your long-form questions. We will get to those someday. And again, that patreon.com/Comic Conspiracy is where you can go to kick us a couple bucks for hosting and getting food and giving these guys some credit. Remember we used to get food? We used to do that sometimes.
It used to happen.
Conspiratobrock.com, that's Brock's blog, video pull list and unboxing videos. You can go over there and watch his videos.
I haven't done those in a while.
That's all right. You get to it. You're busy. A lot going on. Wanders of the Fourth Dimension podcast. That's Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. New season going strong, so got a lot more to talk about. And LeanneHill.com. That is my wife Leanne's art blog site. And she's got a Tumblr. She's got an Etsy store, which is linked from there. You can buy her prints there. You can buy her prints here at the store, and we also have them on our website. And if you're on Twitter, give us all a follow. My name is Ryan Higgins Ryan on Twitter. Brock is Brock Sager. Kevin is that Kevin Sharp, and the store is Comics Con Store. And please listen to the Geek Box. We recorded in person last night. I was here till 11 o'clock with Ryan Scott. Justin was here. Adam Fitch was here. We talked all about our favorite things of 2019. Talked about a lot of Nintendo games, obviously. I won't tell you. We had the 11th annual. The 87th annual, 11th annual Boxies Awards was last night. So the only award show that matters. And according to Reset Era, a rare podcast that does not jump the shark. So
what?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. See, when you're not mentioned, period, you take it as a win. So there you go.
When you're not mentioned as what?
When you're not mentioned at all, you just say, "Oh, cool, I wasn't on the bad list, so that means they must like us." And please listen to our friends over at Manga Nations as well. I've been on there a few times talking about manga and anime. Not for a while. I have not watched anything. I'm so bad with anime. It's terrible.
There's so much else to watch.
I'm like, cool, I'm going to start watching Gundam 79 soon. Like, from 1979. I'm like, it's as old as I am. I don't watch anything new. I don't.
They made it before,
except for One Punch Man. I don't watch anything new. One Punch. So that is it. We are gonna. You ever watch One Punch Man? It's so fucking good. We're gonna wrap up. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next week.